Okay, today we're going to be talking about circle justice and how it applies to the real world. In our packet, we have the first page is all about how it relates to the book. On the second page is a true life account of a woman whose son died and how she went through circle justice and able to help herself and the shooter of her son heal. And on the very last page is a website with other articles about circle justice, and they really call it restorative justice, like restorative justice in public schools, the measures in schools, and we're going to do some stuff about our school later. All right, circle justice in the real world.
Ben Michelson's Touching Spirit Bear is one of the only works of fiction that explore the concept of circle justice, but Michelson's comment on a specific application of a real legal process both use Native American system and in some Western ways.
Western systems, all right?
The entire premise of this book is that circle justice allowed Cole Matthews to serve as punishment in an alternative way of being banished to an Alaskan island, where he could do no harm to others and where he could commune with nature in a healing process. Michelson himself admits that the authors note that banishment to an island is not traditional sentence of circle justice, even with Native communities.
In Native tribes, particularly the Tlingit tribe, circle justice has been used for centuries to deal with criminal problems in the community. It usually involves spiritual or cultural traditions such as sweets, sacrifice, ceremonies, or other similar activities. Generally, the tribes find that this helps foster unity, not just between the convicted and others in society, but also between the members of the circle who would otherwise not have a reason to come together for the betterment of their community.
Okay. Next.
In a Western context, the legal use of circle justice has its origin in Canada, where many of these tribes exist. The term used by some in Canada is circle sentencing. The guidelines and requirements for the circle sentencing were laid out in 1995 case. Ordinarily, there must be a conviction of guilt or an acceptance of guilt by the accused, along with the true
contrition
for one's actions. According to the Native Law
Center, this is just like the home base for their office. Native Law Center of Canada.
Circle expressions of grieving.
Circle sentencing presents
a healthy opportunity for emotional expressions of
grieving,
anger, and support, and has a strong focus on accountability, reparation, and restoration of peaceful and just relations in the community. For the circle sentencing even to be a possibility, the judge, victim, police, and community members must all make themselves available and willing to invest time to monitor the criminal's progress. This requirement is why it has been difficult to spread too far, since it is very time intensive. The sentences can still include jail, but might also include Indian customs such as those described above, concealing, and more.
In the U.S., the only state to use circle sentencing, and even then only in very limited cases, is Minnesota, and this perhaps explains Michelson's choice of the state as the setting of Cole's hometown. While it can be a very rewarding experience, as seen in Touching Spirit Bear and in the other anecdotal accounts, it is still unclear whether circle justice is a model that can be widely replicated. It certainly is an interesting alternative to the traditional crime justice system. Now, all right, you guys can have a seat. Thank you. Mickelson set up the story in Minnesota. Would it have been, would they have even been able to use circle justice as a possibility if he hadn't set it up in Minnesota as the home base? No. Why? That's where most of the circle justice things are happening right now. You have to remember that setting is very, very important to the story. All right, setting is very important to the story. If you don't have the mood right or the place right, then the whole story will be off. And if it's not believable, if it's not something that you can have faith in or that you can follow because you feel for it to be true, then you're not gonna like the story. You're not gonna follow along with it. So it's good that most authors will, draw you in with the setting either by making it seem dark and dreary or by having it set in a certain place so that you can understand that, oh, okay, this is the only place where it really happens. So obviously they would think about circle justice, all right? Because most areas, if it was in Texas or if anywhere else, they wouldn't have that option, all right? Especially in Texas, because we still have the death penalty here for people that do that. All right, now let's look on the next page, please. This is from the Star Tribune. It was written on April 11th, 2009. It was a, let's see, I guess this is a web newspaper. Excuse me. And it was published at 9:21 p.m. on April 11th, 2009. All right, the article was written by John Tevlin. And it's about a woman who goes through circle justice and realizes that she has to forgive, even though she thought she forgave. And she has, after 12 years, she has to come back into that and give a full forgiveness. Now, gunshot, this is the name of the article. Gunshot took her son, but forgiveness finally came. In the dark days following the trial of the boy who killed her son, Mary Johnson stumbled upon a poem that continues to resonate, especially during the Holy Week, and shape her life. Now, I forgot to flip this over for people watching at home. Goodness gracious, no, I didn't mean to do that. All right. There we go. Too big, too small. There we go. Okay. Now it says during the Holy Week. What holiday do we have in April?
Easter.
Easter. Yes. Now Easter. What happens at Easter? What is the? No. What is the? Jesus. Yeah. He died and then he was resurrected. So the resurrection of this is what she is talking about. This poem is about a son being lost and then being reborn. Okay, and through this, she's going to end up losing her son and then becoming reborn herself, and then kind of actually taking on as a son the man who actually killed her child, because she wants to forgive him, and they're both kids when it happened. And so she wants to help him in his forgiveness, and eventually, basically resurrects not her son, but a kind of son, type of son. All right. The poem was an imagined conversation between Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the mother of Judas Iscariot, as they talked of the pain of losing their sons. The year before, in 1993, 16-year-old Marlon Green shot Johnson's only child, Laramuin Bird, in the head during a house party. During Green's sentencing, Johnson hugged the boy's mother and told Green that she forgave him. Yet, for 12 years, doubt lingered. Did she really? All right, did she really forgive him after all that time? Because, as a mother, I don't see how you could really, truly forgive someone that killed your only child. Because that's just a bond that is one of those things that you just can't break. I was angry and hated this boy, hated his mother, Johnson said. The murder was like a tsunami, shock, disbelief, hatred, anger, hatred, blame, hatred. I wanted him to be caged up like the animal that he was. She looked for justice, then solace, but found nothing. So solace just is like peace in the storm, and she just never got peace either, even from the whole situation. So Johnson found a support group, From Death to Life, two mothers coming together for healing, based in part on that poem. She counseled mothers whose children had been killed and encouraged them to reach out to their families, to families of the murderers, who were victims of another kind. So she's actually saying that the murderer himself is the victim and the families are the victim because, yes, you lost your child and they are never on this earth anymore, but their child is now in prison and away from them too, and they basically have lost them as well. So there's a hurt and a loss there happening on both sides, even though it's at a different level. Um, Hurt is hurt. It doesn't matter what side you are on. Make sure I'm still here. Johnson had relied on her faith to get her through, and she knew that to forgive, she had to to be forgiven, she had to truly forgive. So she did something frightening and remarkable. She asked to meet Green in prison. So she wanted to meet the man who killed her son in prison. At first he refused. Prison is not a place to appear vulnerable, so many advised Green to ignore Johnson. But when she asked again 9 months later, he said yes. In preparation for the meeting, restorative justice workers from the Department of Corrections held several preview meetings with Green and Johnson to gauge their motives. Like, so what is the reason for this? Why do you want to meet with them? Okay? Why do y'all want to meet back up? Johnson met with female inmates at the prison in Shakopee and saw a little of herself in some of them. That's when my heart began to change, she said. I began to see them as people, not animals. The day she met Green remains clear, down to the hand lotion someone handed her while she was waiting to see him. It was called Beyond Belief, and it summed up her feelings at that time. Honestly, I didn't know what I was going to do, she said. Green had changed physically and mentally in the 12 years. Slowly, they began to tell stories, and he talked about his life, details of which she promised to keep private. She talked about Laramuin, her son she had lost. Before she left, she turned to Green. I forgive you from the bottom of my heart, she said. Green asked incredulously, Ma'am, how can you do that? Like, how can you forgive me after what I've done to you? As they parted, he said, Ma'am, can I hug you? And they hugged, and Johnson sobbed so hard that Green had to hold her up. That's when she felt it. All that stuff, all that junk deep inside. I felt it rise up from the bottom of my feet and leave me. Like nothing I have ever felt before, she said. I loosed him and let him go. So finally, the loss of her son, she had loosed it from her soul and she let it free. That hatred and that anger, she'd let it go. The meeting was a resurrection of sorts of the person she used to be. Since that day, the two have met many times and have spoken together to inmates to show the power of repentance and forgiveness. Green will likely be released in about a year, and Johnson hopes that they can work together to spread their message. It has taken a lot of courage for him to do this, Johnson said. He's a changed person, and he is going to do well, I declare that. I have claimed him my spiritual son, she said. It's not a pardon for what he did. It's not reconciliation. It's true forgiveness. And that's one thing that they kept bringing back in the story is how if Peter can't forgive Cole, then he will never truly heal. Even though he may be stuck with these physical disabilities forever from what Cole did to him, he may never truly heal on the inside in his heart unless he forgives Cole for what he's done. All right, and we're going to eventually come back in and they're going to meet back up later at some point. We talked about, he finally got what came to him whenever he got the bear attack, but it's all revenge does is make more and more anger. Yes, ma'am. Oh, what is that? John Telvin, this is probably his reporter code, like his editor code, showing because this is off of a web page. All right, the Star Tribune. Now, So he's going to be released soon, the man who actually killed her son. All right, he's a man now. They were kids then. See, his son was 16. They were at a party, and bad things happened. Sorry. The son was 16. It didn't say how old Green was, but I assume since they were at a house party that they were probably around the same age. They were probably in high school. So on the last page, this is a party at someone's house. No. On the last page, we see here there are different types of restorative justice, is what they mostly call it instead of circle justice. There are different places where you can go to read up on it. This one especially, like restorative measures in schools. How can we take the idea of circle justice and bring it into a school? Like if there are people that are being bullied or if there's gossiping going on, how can we bring that in and people talk it through? Because that's where most of the problems happen, is people don't talk about it. What have you done to me? How am I feeling? What is the issue? And if you could just say what you're feeling, most of the times you don't even have to use your fists, which is why people, they just, out of anger, they just fight instead of talk about it. And so that's something that really is making our society very, very violent. Here's another one. Restorative practices impact public schools in Minnesota. All right, still more stuff, but again, only in Minnesota, which is where we which is where our story takes place and which is where all of this takes place. All right, I'm going to pass out a paper to you guys real quick about understanding circle justice, and I'm going to let you guys actually make up your own scenario for a circle justice meeting. Okay, the sheet you have, it says understanding circle justice. On the Mille Lacs Reservation in Minnesota, some criminal offenders are offered an alternative to doing time in the way that integrates North American Indian spirituality and the United States justice system. With the cooperation of traditional municipal and criminal courts, criminals who plead guilty to certain types of crimes are allowed by the court to sign an agreement accepting responsibility for their wrongdoings and committing themselves to working through a spirituality-based process to change their behavior and make restitution to the victims and their community. This alternative approach to dealing with criminals is called circle sentencing and comes from the Native American practice called talking circles. So what you're going to do today on the bottom, you are going to write a scenario for a justice circle. Here we have our information. All right, write a scenario for a justice circle. Decide on an offender and on his offense, who was the victim, and a list of people who would attend the circle. Now, before you get going, think about something that could happen in this school. All right, think of an incident where someone may have, it doesn't have to be like this one where her son died, or in the book where they were viciously mauled. It could be something as simple as someone, stole the milk off my desk at snack time, and so when I did that and they didn't give it right back right away, they punched me in the face, because they were being, attitudey Judy, all right? Or someone bumped me in the hall, and so I turned around and I, got into a fight with them, and we were yelling it out, and then we got caught before we could start, throwing books. Now, so this is what I want you to do, is try to think of a real life scenario, some way that you can fix a problem that's happened at school. And who would need to come to a circle meeting? You can do fake people or you can do people in the screen. I don't matter, because this is going to be your own personal notes and your own thing, okay? Don't try to make someone kill off somebody else. Don't be mean. Now, just think about who would need to show up to a circle meeting at this school. Who? The parents of the kids involved. A couple teachers, the kids who saw it. Who else would need to be there?
The principal.
Thank you. The principal would need to be there. Who else? Well, maybe if the nurse helped tend to the kids after the fact, after it was hurt. Well, we have the parents. Of course, we need a principal. We need an administrator. We need teachers there. But not just teachers, because we're not deciding your fate, because it's important for you guys to get involved. So who else should show up? The people who saw witnesses, as well as other students who want to make a change in their community and in their school for making it a less violent place. Okay? So this is what I want you to think about. You can work in your groups. I just want you to think of scenarios where things that may have happened, and instead of it ending in a fight, or instead of it, maybe instead of it turning out the way it did, where someone just goes to ISS, which would be like banishment, but they may be able to, do things to help people in our school instead of as an alternative punishment to going to ISS. Okay. Yeah, that would actually be yes, the counselor should be there. That would be a great idea. The counselor could be like the feather keeper, what's her name? No, I know what her name is. In the book, the one who holds in the book, the one who said I don't think she's called the feather keeper. Is that what it said in the book? I don't remember. The keeper. That's right. Just the keeper. That's right. I knew it was. I was like something. So the keeper is the one who would basically lead the circle and try to make sure everyone is, being respectful and you're passing the feather and you're asking your questions. You're not spending too much time talking because you want to respect others and show that respect by giving everyone a chance to speak. All right, y'all guys work on that. And then we're going to share our scenarios at the end. All right, see what you got? The end. All right, get to it, guys. Good job today. All right.